As a deer hunter, I want to know all I can about America's favorite big game animal. That's why I became a deer farmer. Without deer farms, we lose our greatest resource for research and whitetail management. With them, we gain more knowledge than ever before. Join me as we discover the truth about whitetails and meet those who work every day to preserve this great species for future generations. My name is Keith Warren, and this is Deer and Wildlife Stories.
All right, let's go ahead and get this dude started. Hey everybody, welcome to the show and to the Derby Sand Ranch, where we're about an hour and 15 minutes due south of San Antonio, Texas. Now, today's program is going to be different than any other deer and wildlife story show we've done. The reason why, we're going to start out at the very beginning, the conception of white-tailed deer. We're going to show you the process, we're going to show you bottle feeding deer, and we're going to show you some of the biggest bucks in the industry. You're going to like this show.
Hi, my name is John Viesca with Derby Sands. We're AIing today. Right now we're running our does through where they'll be sedated and knocked down, and then they'll be AI'd.
The deer industry has gotten to the point there's a lot of really big deer in it now. And you can look at your deer herd as a breeder, you can say, okay, I really need width, or I need tine length, or I need mass, or you pick some characteristics that what you're looking for in deer. And how do you bring that in? Well, you bring it through, semen, and you bring it in, you introduce it that way. And so that's what's being done here. They are changing the genetic makeup by artificially inseminating their deer. It is an exciting time. The artificial insemination process on white-tailed deer can actually look very intimidating, somebody who's never been through it before, but when you start taking a look at it, you start cutting it up, and you start trying to figure out exactly what's going on, it really is not that hard to understand. Let me kind of walk you through the process. First off, these deer, they live in a pen year-round. These deer live in what we call social groups, okay? They're used to each other. There's a pecking order, and there's a dominant doe, and then she runs the pen. And so what happens, the social group, they're very comfortable. They have very little stress because they know, well, that's their social group. That social group is brought into the barn, and then they're put into a handling facility. They'll go through a loading chute, and they're sorted out, and each one of them is given a sedative. As they get that sedative, they go into a dark room, and that dark room is where they're going to go to sleep. Now, you'll notice that this facility at Derby Sands has got a very elaborate video monitoring system. You can see something going on these screens all over the place, and that's why that they can actually reduce a lot of the noise that's going on within the system. As the work is being done, people are looking up at the screen and seeing what's being done, and so they know how to prepare for the next animals coming in. Once the animals go to sleep and they can watch them on the screen, they'll go in and load up each one individually and bring them out on a gurney. Once they're out, they'll wind up putting them upside down, and then they'll go ahead and take barber clippers, and they'll have a vacuum attached, and they'll wind up shaving their stomachs. This is real critical because that's where the incisions are going to be made to go ahead and impregnate the deer. Once they have their belly shaved, they're taken over, and that's where the doctor takes over. The process doesn't take long at all. And once they're done, they're loaded back up on a buggy. Now keep in mind, social groups. I talk about social groups because it's the less stress on animals that what we're trying to do as a deer farmer. And so they take that same social group, they put them back in the original pen they came from, and then they wake them up all together. So it's the same social group from the very beginning to the very end of the process.
Deer and Wildlife Stories is brought to you by the North American Deer Farmers Association, New Dart, Newport Labs, the North American Deer Registry, Beam Fence Company, Shock Effect, GMS, Deer Guardian Misting Systems, Record Rack Deer Feeds, T3 Whitetails, and Dr. Ray Favero's Whitetail Genetics.
It's early June, fawns are hitting the ground, and we're slam busy.
It's early June, and like most deer farmers, this is the busiest time of year. The gestation period for a white-tailed deer is somewhere approximately between 195 days and 205 days. When you take a look at the does in the pens here at Derby Sand Ranch, you can tell real quickly that some of the does just look miserable. And the reason why is because they're fixing to fawn out any minute now. You'll also notice that there are some fawns that are in the pens with their mothers. The reason why is those are buck fawns, and here at the Derby Sand Ranch, those buck fawns are going to be raised by the does. Now, the reason why the does are the ones that are being bottle fed and not the bucks is because they want the does to remain gentle. Gentle deer are easier to work, they're typically much more healthy, they're more valuable, and when it comes to breeding, the conception rate for a gentle deer is much higher than a wilder deer. Now, these fawns will be weaned by the time they're 90 days old. And during that 90 days, they're being watched after 24/7. And I mean, these fawns are in ultimate condition and they have the best care possible.
Basically, day to day, pretty intense days. Start early in the morning, looking for fawns, looking at the does every day throughout the whole day, from 6 to 8 times a day, looking at these does. When we do find a fawn, we go in there, make sure that it's eating, make sure everything's fine and the mama's fine.
If you're not a deer farmer, I need to tell you a little kind of a peculiar thing that goes on with deer farmers. They don't want to share pictures of their deer. They don't want somebody to see a deer really before he grows out all the way. And the reason why is because there's a little bit of competition there. Everybody wants to show their deer off when they get bigger. Everybody wants to see what that deer is going to do before they really present it to the world. And so deer farmers are very peculiar about that. They don't want to really share what their deer look like. Well, they don't want to share what that deer looks like until he's done growing out, and that's in late August and early September. That's when we go to the deer farms and show the bucks, because that's when they look the biggest. Okay, so we like to start out showing y'all the 3-year-old bucks no matter what deer farm we go to, and so that's the pen that we're in now. So tell us about them.
Well, basically, some of these 3-year-olds, or some of them will go to deer management pens, some of them will go as breeders, and some will be turned out on the ranch.
Okay. But, I mean, so all of them in here are 3?
Yes, sir. There's pretty much every single one is 3, yes, sir.
How many you got in here, John?
I got about 30.
Okay, but these deer, I mean, there's some exceptional deer in here. They're just not what you want to use to breed?
Not necessarily. You know, there's some that I would, but, you know, I've got some better in my pens, you know, and, you know, we need to move forward and sell them. And
so if somebody was looking for a nice breeder buck, some of these right here are big enough for most people's breeders.
Absolutely.
Okay, and as far as pedigrees go, I mean, we always are talking about pedigree, and I know your fawns are all structured. I mean, you built them all.
Yes, sir.
You built all these guys too, didn't you?
Yes, sir. Sure did.
And so every one of these deer have got a pedigree, a DNA chart on them and all?
DNA certified, yes, sir, and DNA certified.
Okay, so if somebody would want to come out here and to get a hold of you to come look at deer, give them a telephone number.
Yes, sir, 830-505-0019.
Okay, and folks, if the best time of year to come out would be when, John?
I would say, you know, mid-July, you know, late July, somewhere in there.
Okay, and right now, folks, it is the first week of September. I mean, this is late in the year, really. I mean,
Yes,
these
sir.
bucks are just starting to. They're going to start changing up pretty quick. They're going to be coming out of velvet within the next 2 weeks, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, not a little sooner.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to buy deer like this, the best time to buy these kind of deer, the turnout deer, breeder deer like this, would really be about mid to end August, 1st of September, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Hear that, folks? Take a look at these guys right here. And they may not be up to snuff to make it at the Derby Sand Deer Farm as far as breeding goes, but I guarantee you they're big enough to make it on some people's deer farms for breeding.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you did a good job on these guys. Okay. Let's, you got some 1-year-olds we can look at?
Yes, sir. Sure do. I got a few.
Yeah, I bet you do. Let's go look at them. All right, so, you know, we just took a look at the 3-year-olds.
Yes.
And let me ask you. Now, folks, we're fixing to show you an unbelievable pen of 1-year-old bucks right now. But before we show them, I want to ask you a question. Were the 3-year-olds that we just looked at, when they were 1, were they this good?
No, not necessarily. No.
So take a look at these bucks, folks.
Yeah.
I mean, these deer are unbelievable. Now, how many 1-year-olds you got in here?
In here, there's probably about 20, 25, you know.
And they're all one.
And they're all one, yes, sir.
Some of them look big enough to be 2.
Yeah.
He's modest. Yeah. But no, I mean, with the wind blowing and stuff, this is not a real good condition for us to be out here filming these guys. But these guys seem to be doing pretty good. I mean,
Yes,
they're handling
Yes,
it.
sir.
But this is South Texas. This is the conditions down here are real brutal. I mean, in comparison to some deer farms like up in Ohio and different places where the weather's cooler. Down here it gets plenty hot, and
does.
and these deer though, are, on the show we talk about people that are using northern influence down here in Texas and all. What percentage northern influence do you have in your herd?
I have about 50-50.
Do you have any problem with them surviving down here in this hot weather?
I think the 50-50 will make. I mean, it's tough on them, but they'll make it. They can survive it.
And the reason for doing that is what?
Just to get them bigger quicker.
Yeah, and that's the whole name of the game as far as farmers go. I mean, whether you're growing soybean or corn or cattle or deer, I mean, we want to get everything big quick, and that's just the name of the game. And so those guys right there, they are big. Now I got to ask you this: most deer farms we go to will not part with a 1-year-old buck, no matter what. They will not sell one. Will you?
No, probably not.
Okay, I mean there are guys that just won't do it, and tell them the reason why you won't do it.
Blow up. He'll be bigger too. I know there'll be 1, 2 here that are pretty special that will blow up.
And you really can't tell looking at them at one. I mean, if you've got some of these 1-year-olds in here are really big, okay, really big, and you know that they're going to be big at 2.
Yes, sir.
But just because there's some guys in here that may not look real big right now doesn't mean anything. They're bred right.
Absolutely.
They could have been a late-born fawn.
Yes,
they could have had something up with them. They weren't well. And now all of a sudden they rebound, and at 2 they could go from just being an average-looking deer to being a real superstar. So that's the reason why they're not willing to part with a 1-year-old. So typically, though, if somebody wants to buy does or fawns, for example,
yes, sir.
Can they buy those from you?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right,
Absolutely.
but the 1-year-old bucks are off limits. Okay, but if somebody wants to,
Everything's for sale.
yeah, okay,
For the right price.
Yeah, you better show up with a big checkbook. But I want to go see Triple Crown. Now, Triple Crown has taken this industry by storm. I mean, there's some bucks out there that are legends, and we're going to go show you a legend in the deer industry right now. His name is Triple Crown, and y'all aren't going to believe your eyes. Take me to him, big boy.
Let's go.
Now it's time for the Beam Fence Minute. There's an old saying, you get what you pay for, and that's true whether you're dealing with deer genetics or whether you're dealing with a fence. And as far as fences go, I want to point something out that different people use different construction methods to put their fences up. Some guys put up fences that'll last a lifetime and more, and some guys put up fences that, well, in 10 years you're going to be repairing those fences and probably rebuilding them because they weren't done right. So what you have to do is you have to keep in mind that you get what you pay for and everything, and fencing is just one of those deals that when you deal with Mark Beam, Mark has decades of experience. He has a list of references as long as your leg. He has the most sophisticated equipment that he's come up with himself. He's got patents on this stuff that fence contractors all around the world, including fence contractors over in Australia, are using Beam Fence Company products. And that just gives you a little idea about Mark Beam. But you get what you pay for and everything. Like I said, whether it's deer semen or deer fencing, you're going to get what you pay for. Okay, well, there's no doubt who that is. That right there, my friends, is Triple Crown. On a big deer like that, or any deer really, deer are social animals, and you don't want to leave them in the pen all by themselves. So I know how come you got that other guy with him, just as a companion, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's just a real gentle 2-year-old.
Just gentle 2-year-old. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
but take a look at Triple Crown, and I want to talk to you about this show that we're doing is unique because we've shown you the process. We're showing you the process of artificial insemination on white-tailed deer, and Triple Crown was planned. I mean, that deer right there is no accident. Genetically, it was planned. The dam and the sire to put them together, and then it's just a gamble. You cross your fingers and you hope that you grow something like Triple Crown.
And John, you got it done.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
you got it done. And so what I'm looking at, I'm going, okay, that deer right there is old. How old is he now?
He's 3.
Okay, so you've got offspring on the ground out of it.
Yes, sir. Sure do.
Okay. You got semen for sale out of him?
Absolutely.
Okay, so somebody wants semen out of him, and I know there's got to be guys up north that want to breed with him because he's a 50-50. Isn't he 50-50?
No, he's not necessarily 50-50.
What is he? What's his bloodline?
He's a yardstick gladiator on Dream Buck. So.
Okay, so he's more Texas than...
More Texas, yes. Sir.
Wow. Wow, that is exceptional. And look at the size of him. All right, so if somebody would like more information on purchasing some semen from you out of that buck, give them a phone number.
830-505-0019.
Folks, we'll have that contact information coming up too again at the end of the show. But I want to talk to you more about AI, okay?
Yes, sir.
Because that's a huge part of this business, and that's a huge part of your program.
Yes, sir.
How many does, percentage-wise, do you artificially inseminate?
About 100. I do about AI about 100.
So 100 of them every year.
Yes, sir.
And the procedure that you do, it's a laparoscopic. I mean,
Yes, sir.
there's surgery that is done. These deer are they're brought into the barn and they're put down with a knockout drug, and then they're turned over upside down. Their belly is shaved, and they're washed off with iodine, cleaned up real good, and all the hairs vacuumed up, and it's really quite a process. I mean, you've got a team that is in that barn, and then the doc comes in and he does the surgery. And I mean, you've got, and if you've never experienced seeing something like this, I mean, it's a sight to behold, because it looks chaotic, but it's organized chaos.
Yes, sir. A lot of hard work. A lot of work. Yeah.
And in your barn, with all the TV screens and all the monitors, that's the cool deal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
it's a lot of fun.
You can watch what's going on in every single part of the barn.
Yes, sir.
Watch it going on. And so let me ask you, what kind of percentage do you get? What type of conception rate?
I run about a 70%.
Really?
70% to 80%.
Okay. And as far as the gestation period on a white-tailed deer, you're looking at anywhere from 186 to 203, something like that.
Somewhere in there, 210, even up to 2. I've had them up to 210.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Really?
Yes, sir.
And then, but how long after they're AI bred do you wait before you put a cover buck in there to live cover them, or do you?
I normally wait about 21 days or so before I put a buck in there with them. 17, 21 days, somewhere in there.
And what you'll see, folks, is when that happens, you'll see when the first fawn hits the ground, you know that's a AI baby.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you'll see, and we keep records of it, you see the spike, boy, it goes up, 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 then all of a sudden it starts dropping back off. Okay, and then all of a sudden you'll start getting a little spike again, and that's the live cover one. So
Yes, sir.
that's pretty amazing. And I mean, looking at Triple Crown and realizing that you're able to take that semen and put it in does all over the country and be able to help those people accomplish, well, bigger and better deer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You done good, man.
Thank you.
You done good. All right, so if somebody would like to come down here and take a farm tour, we've given you John's telephone number, but this is about a little over an hour from downtown San Antonio, straight down Interstate 35, and down here in the agricultural area, but also this is the South Texas brush country. So get a hold of John if you want to come down here, and I promise you, you better bring a camera, and you're gonna be happy that you came. Let's head on back to the deer barn. All right, here is the deer barn, and here's Miss Katie again. She's the mama deer. She takes care of them all. I want to show you a couple of things. Just the way she's washing the nipples, and then in the dishwasher right here, you'll notice the bottle, she's going to run all these through the dishwasher. Now, you don't have to do this. You can wash these by hand, but one thing that deer farmers have found out, if you wash them by hand, a lot of times if they're not washed out real well, the fawns will get diarrhea, and diarrhea is really, really bad. So every one of these has a number that corresponds with the deer, and put them in the dishwasher. That way it gets nice and sanitary. Of course, you got your milk and you got all your information up here, and they know where every deer is in the system at any given time. And you come over here and you've got, of course, the dart guns and the medications locked up in here. And then look at this little guy right here. I want to show y'all. This little fawn right here was born 3 days ago. And it's a nice little fawn. Come here, baby. Come here. It was born 3 days ago, okay? And genetically, This deer right here is a giant. It may be a tiny deer right now, and a lot of people they look at deer and they go, you know what, they all look the same. But when you start looking at the pedigree, they're not the same. And the deer down here, John has engineered these guys to the point that they are all superstars. All right, baby, we're gonna put you up. But this one's 3 days old right here, and she is in here to be taken care of. And outside right now, I mean, the fawns that were actually conceived through the laparoscopic artificial insemination process, those fawns are outside right now because they're 90 days old and it's time for them to get outside. Now these guys in here, look at these guys. These are late born fawns as well. And these guys right here are from the 30% that did not conceive through the artificial insemination process. So these were all live cover fawns right here. And the reason why they're bottle feeding these doe fawns is really, really simple. They want to keep these fawns gentle, and the more gentle they can keep them, the healthier they can keep them.
That does it for today's show, folks. And if y'all would like to contact John Viesca with Derby Sand Ranch, we'll have a direct link off of our website over to their website. Just get a hold of him. I know he'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments about our show, shoot me an email and I'll be happy to get back with you. And I promise you, everybody who writes me an email does hear back. I'm Keith Warren. I'd like to thank you for watching Deer and Wildlife Stories.